Hello, welcome to Australia, welcome to Australian Book Travels, and welcome to this week's book recommendations and another book harvest. I know, some people say it's a problem. I think it's a hobby, it's my work, and it needs to be done. That's my excuse. You can use the same when you go out buying books as well. I hope you're all well this week since our last video, whichever that is, the travel videos on Saturday or the last book recommendation last Monday. I hope you're well. It is freezing here. It is so cold. Today the sun is shining. It's a blue sky, but there was a very thick frost on the ground. So it has been cold, and I have the wood fire burner going today, or we've had it going for the last week, but it's lovely to see it glistening and flaring and then watching the flames. It's lovely, and it's nice and warm in here whilst I'm talking to you. Okay, a couple of actually the first one I wanted to discuss with you. Last year, at the end of the year, I think it was, I had already read and recommended The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart by Holly Ringland. Now, Holly is an Australian. I first came across Holly when she co-hosted a beautiful program called Back to Nature with Indigenous actor and presenter Aaron Pedersen. If you get the chance, if you haven't watched it, if you get the chance, take it, watch it. It is absolutely beautiful. It is spiritual, it's informative, it's relaxing, a really beautiful production. I think by the by the ABC here in Australia. You may be able to see it on YouTube, perhaps, I don't know. But if you get the chance, definitely I recommend it. It will show you a bit of Australian flora and fauna, but give you that side of the Indigenous culture and the spiritual side. It was beautiful. Anyway, Holly Ringland is the co-host. She wrote this. I absolutely love this, and I recommended it to you last year. If you haven't read it, do yourself a favour. It does have a couple of areas that may be worrying to people or a bit of a trigger. And one of those issues is domestic violence. But I hear you all sort of gasp, but it is done in such a way, Holly has written in such a way that it is respectful, but not too gratuitous. The sections that you read discussing the idea or the issue of domestic violence, I didn't realise I was reading about domestic violence until a little later on. I have to be careful here how I say this, but it was beautifully written. It was respectful, and it definitely showed it was showing the horrors of domestic violence, but not, as I say, in a gratuitous way. It begins with that, and then the protagonist, her story then develops. It has there's a lot in here, a spiritual or a spirituality throughout it. There's themes of sisterhood and the meaning of nature, and in particular the meaning of flowers throughout life and just within nature. It is a beautiful book. Now, Holly Ringland's second book, The 7 Skins of Esther Wilding, I have just read not that long ago, and I was a little worried about following up such a wonderful book with a second, so I did procrastinate for a little time to read it. It is a beautiful book. Once again, Holly Ringland has brought in that spirituality and the mythology of Celtic Celtic mythology and Australian Indigenous mythology. It is wonderful. It's a story of love and loss and grief and death and all of those things, and it's beautifully written. There are two things, however, that I would like to say. One is, personally, I'm not keen on swearing in books. You hear it so much out on the streets and in movies and all programs on television. I'm just not that keen. And there is a little bit of swearing in this that I thought was unnecessary. I don't mind the occasional word in a book. I understand it's reflecting society as it is today. But for me, there was just a little bit too much in it. I mean, I still read it and I still loved it and I still recommend it. But just be aware that there is a little bit of swearing in this, particularly by the protagonist. I don't think by anybody, well, not too much by anybody else. She also in this, and I don't mean this because I do recommend it. I think it's a great book and I think you should read it. But there is a section probably just after midway, perhaps 2/3 of the way through, where I found it a little long in the tooth. It was just a tad too much writing for me, just a tad too boring. But having said that, I loved it. I recommend it. But as I say, I always tell you the truth. I always tell you how I see it with these books, and that's how I see it. You may not. You may think that I'm talking out of my hat. But for me, there was just a little bit too much swearing and a section, a good few pages where it was just a bit long in the tooth. I do recommend it. Now, let me get my spectacles on. And I've realised that with the windows, I need the windows for the lighting. I need the blinds to be up for the lighting so that you can see. But of course, it reflects my glasses, so I do apologise for that. Now, this is Fourth Estate and was written, let me tell you all the gossip. It was written this was published in 2023, so it was last year. It was first published actually in 2022, but this edition is 2023. It is much longer than The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart. This was around let me have a look. It was around 370 pages. This one is, I think, 500. Yep, 524. So it is much longer. You can see it's much thicker. And I think the story could have been told in 300 pages, to be honest, or 324 pages. I absolutely love this one, as you know, if you have seen my book recommendation from last year. I think it's brilliant. It has won awards, and rightly so. This one, I absolutely loved it. I love the mythology. I love the themes throughout it, the loss, the love, the death and life, and all of those beautiful things, and the family connection and the problems that family have, but how they overcome them. Absolutely beautiful. And it does take you across from Australia, and it takes you into Europe and to the Netherlands, I think it is. Anyway, it's beautiful, but they're just those two little complaints. Paperback, of course. I would actually really love to get this one in the hardcover, and even Seven Skins, but for those two reasons, I didn't enjoy it as much as The Lost Flowers, but it is still a wonderful read, and I'm glad I read it. It was beautiful. That's that. Now, two really old ones here, but they are still in publication. Again, an Australian. We're doing some Australian authors again this week. Now, this will be a little bit racked and ruined and a bit messy, because They are a cookbook, a memoir, and a coffee table book all in one. But I use them as cookbooks. And if any of you know me, you know that when I cook. And the cooking comes first, the book comes second. So you never know what you'll find in here. There's probably raspberries and flour and butter and all sorts of things. This is an Australian, Jane Webster. She took her family of 4 children, I think, and husband from Australia to buy and renovate a rundown chateau in Normandy. Now, this would have been, I think, about 20 years ago. As I say, these books are still in publication, so you can buy them if you don't have them already. Let me have a look before we get into all the beautiful pictures and things. It doesn't say. Hang on. Let me just see. I can't. Well, I won't waste your time now, actually. But it must. I've had them probably for at least 12 years, and I think they're maybe 15 years old. But they are absolutely brilliant. They're a brilliant cookbook, coffee table book, and just got a piece of paper in there. A coffee table book, and I've pressed a flower. Oh, whoops! I'll put that back later. A coffee table book and a memoir. See, there's the menus, or the recipes, but it's also a lovely coffee table book. If you can see those. There are her children, or 2 of her children, but she tells you through this, it is a memoir, so she tells you through this how they came about leaving Melbourne and going to Normandy. I know Jane now spends 6 months in Normandy and 6 months here in Australia. She does have a cooking, I don't think she's not a cook or a chef, but she is now. She has a cooking school in Normandy, I think, and I do believe that I don't know if she does now, but she was running some cooking schools over here in Australia. It is beautiful. This is titled At My French Table by Jane Webster. She followed that up with French Ties, Love, Life and Recipes. That's probably looking a little bit grotty. As I say, these are working books. I don't use them as coffee table books, but whilst I'm waiting for something to cook, I then flick through and have a look at the beautiful photos. Absolutely stunning. That's in Normandy. Let me see if I can find her chateau for you. Oh, here she is. There's Jane. They also run the chateau, I think. They have the cooking school in the chateau, and the students are able to stay in the chateau. So this is her bed linen and what she uses, the French bed linen. But there was a picture of Jane that we just flicked by there. Let's have a look. No. Well, there's the chateau there, if you can see that. And they renovated it, and Jane talks you through the process that they took to renovate it. There she is with, I think that's a staff member there, or family member. But there she is cleaning the windows of the chateau in preparation for guests. Look, these are 2 beautiful books. She has followed it up with another book, and I can't remember the title of it now. I will let you know what that. I don't have it, so I'm not familiar with that particular book, but I know she followed it up with a 3rd in the series. That's At My French Table and French Ties. You can use them as a cookbook or a coffee table book. If you don't want it damaged, I would recommend that you just keep it as a coffee table book. But if you are like me and you use and abuse your coffee table book, your cookbooks, not intentionally, but they just get in the way of my cooking. So oftentimes, it's well used. And I think sometimes a book, when it is well used like that, you know that it's well loved. This would have to be one of my probably most used, or has been in the past. I haven't used it for a long time, but it is possibly one of my most well used cookbooks. It does have the beautiful ribbons so that you can mark your cooking spots, your recipes. But look, we have some recipes there. A lot of them are French recipes now in this book. In fact, I think both of them are French. Like she doesn't. I don't think she has any Australian or English recipes in here. I think they are all French. I know that sounds silly to say, but sometimes as an Australian, you perhaps would put in, a couple of Australian recipes, but Jane hasn't, and that's wonderful, really, because it is a book about France or Normandy. But I recommend those two. They're absolutely brilliant. They are well used in my cookbook library, which one day I will show you. But they're great. Jane Webster, an Australian who moved to Normandy, and Holly Ringland, who is also an Australian, beautiful writer. That's the other thing I wanted to say about Holly, which I did mention in the video when I recommended the Lost Flowers of Alice Hart. She's a beautiful writer. It's not just a wonderful story with beautiful themes. She writes well as well. So, yeah, they're beautiful. So 2 Australian authors I recommend, absolutely beautiful. Now, we are opening the box of goodies from Abbey's bookshop in Sydney. I have mentioned this bookshop before. You will all know if you've been watching. I did take the liberty, as you know, I like to undo these things, but I don't go through them until I'm with you. Let's begin. Now, there's my receipt. I don't want you seeing the receipt. I don't want anybody seeing the receipt. Let's just pop that aside for a minute. Good grief. Okay, now it has been a couple of months since I ordered these books. Abbey's bookshop had to order in a couple of the books, and I asked for them all to be packaged together and sent to me when they were ready. So I'm not completely aware of everything that's in here. I have a suspicion, but okay, here we go. Here we go. Okay. A number of you will remember that I've mentioned Marsha Mayran in a previous book recommendation video, her Soda Bread and Rosewater book. This is her first novel, Pomegranate Soup. Now, I have read this, but I lost my copy, and I wanted to read it. When I made the recommendation with Soda Bread and Rosewater, I wanted to read this again. I thought, I best read that, and realised I'd lost my copy. So I ordered another copy. But Marsha, unfortunately, she died in tragic circumstances, actually. She died very young. I'm not quite sure how old she was. She may have been in her early 30s. Very tragic. And she was found in her own apartment in Ireland, actually. It was very tragic. And we lost a very, very good writer. I really recommend Pomegranate Soup and Soda Bread and Rosewater, or is it Rosewater and Soda Bread? But really beautiful. It's a beautiful story about 3 sisters from Tehran, and from Iran. And I'm just reading the back here to remind myself, from Iran, and they set up in Ireland. They set up a bakery and a cafe, I think. Really, really lovely story. So I recommend that. But that is a copy that I needed, because I have... What is the bet? Now that I've purchased this, I will find the original copy. Some books I have given away in my life, throughout my life. Some of them I think I've lost in moving. This is one book I would not have given away. So it's more likely that as soon as I finish this video and I read this and I begin reading it, more than likely that I'm going to find the original copy. But I'll let you know if that happens, but it's likely. Oh, okay. This is exciting. Actually, I might put this down. This is a little bit bulky. I might put this down. Okay, now, you all know I absolutely love C.J. Sansom, the writer, the English writer, and his series, Matthew Shardlake, dealing or involved in, he's a barrister who is involved in Tudor times, and he is involved with Cromwell, and throughout the series of books he's involved with Queen Elizabeth I, and he's there trying to solve some mysteries, sometimes murders. Now, when C.J. Sansom passed away, he left us with 7 books in the Matthew Shardlake series. Not enough, as far as I'm concerned, not enough. And I was really upset because if you have seen my video from quite a few weeks ago in memory of C.J. Sansom, I fell in love with the protagonist. I think he's just beautifully written, beautiful character, and I just love the stories. So before we lost C.J. Sansom, before he passed away, when I'd finished the series, I did start reading S.J. Paris. Her first book is Heresy. This is the second in the series. I think there must be about 10 now, I think, in the series. There may be more, actually. Well, here we go. I beg your pardon. The first one is Heresy. I think I've got it up there. You're going to see the back of my head, and I do apologise. But I think I have Heresy as the first one. What did I say? I said something else, didn't I? Anyway, Heresy is the first one. There's Sacrilege, Treachery and Conspiracy, but there are more in the series. This book is just telling me that there is these 5, but there are a few more. These are based in Tudor times again, and actually the protagonist is now what is his name? Let me just remember. Not just remember. Let me cheat and actually read the back. Oh, Giordano Bruno. Now, and I'm not pronouncing that correctly. It's Giordano Bruno. He was an actual figure in history. He was an Italian who was burnt at the stake for heresy by the Catholic Church because he had a few alternative views. But S.J. Paris has used him in this series. He is a beautiful character. I have only read the one book. This is the second. I'll get onto this as soon as I can. I'm really looking forward to it. I thoroughly enjoyed the first book. It began in 1581, I think, from memory, but I can correct myself in the subtitles if that's not correct. This is 1583, in the autumn of 1583, under Elizabeth's rule. Loyalty is bought with blood. Now, would you like me to read the back? Let's read the back. Autumn 1583, the skies above England harbour dark omens. An astrological... I just got myself mixed up there. An astrological phenomenon heralds the dawn of a new age, and a young maid of honour is murdered, occult symbols carved into her flesh. The court's loyalties are tested, its murderous secrets exposed. When Mary Stuart's supporters scheme to usurp Queen Elizabeth's throne, spy master Francis Walsingham calls on Giordano Bruno to infiltrate the plotters. The proof he seeks is within his grasp, but the young woman's murder could point to an even more sinister truth. I can't wait to read this. I haven't yet fallen in love with Giordano, but I do like him. I think he's an honest and careful investigator. I like him, so I'm glad I bought that. And I can't, if it's anywhere near C.J. Sampson's work, and anywhere near as good as the first, The Heresy, I think I will be really buying all of the books in the series. They're a great series. Okay, next one. Dodie Smith's I Capture the Castle. This is a classic. I haven't read it at all, so this is the first time I will be reading it. I will. Now, these are all paperbacks, by the way, I think. Well, so far they are anyway. They're paperbacks. And I'll read the back for you. I write this sitting in the kitchen sink. This is the diary of Cassandra Mortman, which tells of her extraordinary family and their crumbling castle home. Cassandra's father was once a famous writer, but now he mainly reads detective novels whilst his family slide into genteel poverty. Her sister Rose is bored, beautiful and desperate to marry riches. Their stepmother Topaz is in the habit of striding through the countryside, wearing only her Wellington boots. But all their lives will soon be transformed by the arrival of new neighbours from America, and Cassandra finds herself falling in love. So that is Dodie Smith's I Capture the Castle. I can't wait to read that, and I'll let you all know. We'll definitely in the future sometime do a book review on that, or a book recommendation. Okay, this is going to be difficult for me to pronounce. This is The Last Quarter of the Moon. Not difficult to pronounce, but the author's name is. I think it's Jizan. This is by Vintage Earth, published by Vintage Earth, and it is a book I saw quite some time ago, and I do believe Sherlock and Pages did a book club review on it, or a discussion on it. So if you get onto Sherlock and Pages' YouTube channel and their podcast, I'm fairly sure they did, yes, I know he did, a discussion. They had a discussion on this book. It sounds really interesting, but by that time I had already ordered it from Abbey's bookshop, so which was coincidental and quite strange, actually. Anyway, here we go. The rain and snow have weathered me, and I too have weathered them. At the end of the 20th century, an old woman sits among the birch trees and reflects on the joys and tragedies that have befallen her people. A member of the Evenki tribe who wander the forests of northeastern China, hers was a life lived in close sympathy with nature at its most beautiful and cruel. Then, in the 1930s, the intimate, secluded world of the tribe is shattered when the Japanese army invades China. The Evenki cannot avoid being pulled into the brutal conflict that marks the beginning of the end of life as they know it. I cannot wait to read this. I'm really excited. It is a beautiful cover. They're all lovely covers, actually. I'll go through them again at the end, but they're all beautiful covers, but this one is particularly beautiful. So that's Vintage Earth, been published by Vintage Earth. So I can't wait to read that and let you know. If you have read any of these, do let me know what you think. Don't tell me the themes or the story. Let's get involved in that, but do let me know if you have read them. This is an oldie. This has been out for a long time. Let me see when they published it, 2014. So I haven't read this. This is a reimagining of Pride and Prejudice from the point of view of the servants. Longbourn by Joe Baker. I'm sure many of you will have read it if you are a Jane Austen fan. I haven't, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. And this one is by Penguin. Cannot wait. This is so exciting. I'm always excited when there's... Oh, gosh, there's a few left. Oh, no, there's a couple left. Okay. Woo. This is Rain or Winds, The Salt Path. I was actually discussing this with my pen pal, from Anne from overseas. I forgot that I'd ordered it, and I was discussing it with her. But there you go, Anne. Apparently I ordered it and I didn't realise. I'm looking forward to it. There are mixed reviews on this. Some people absolutely love it and it is their treasure. Others are saying they're not that bothered. But that happens, I guess, in a lot of books. It really does depend on what you enjoy and what you find in the book, what you seek out in the book, and what you get from it. This has won awards, I think, and it certainly, but yeah, it has won a few awards. This is a true story. It's a memoir, and I'll just read the back for you. Just days after Raynor Wynne learned that Moth, her husband of 32 years, was terminally ill, they lost their home and livelihood. With nothing left and little time, they impulsively decide to walk the 630-mile southwest coast path from Somerset to Dorset via Devon and Cornwall. Living wild and free at the mercy of sea and sky, they discovered a new liberating existence, but what would they find at the journey's end? So I'm looking forward to that, although there are mixed reviews, like most books though. That's it. This is it. We've come across the last book. Now, I have never read these. I'm really excited and looking forward to this. This is The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie. It's a Flavia De Lucci mystery by Alan Bradley. There's a whole series of these. It is, I think it's a young adult's book, although it doesn't say that. But there is a whole, it doesn't say, but I'm guessing it may be. Anyway, regardless, I always advocate adults reading all books, children's, young adults. Take your imagination away with a really good book. So I'm looking forward to this. I'll read the back for you. The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie. Meet Flavia, mystery solver, master poisoner, 11 years old. England 1950, at Buckshaw, the crumbling country seat of the De Lucci family, very nearly 11-year-old Flavia is plotting revenge on her older sisters. Then a dead bird is left on the doorstep, which has an extraordinary effect on Flavia's eccentric father, and a body is found in the garden. As the police descend on Buckshaw, Flavia decides to do some investigating of her own. This is really interesting. A cross between Dodie Smith's I Capture the Castle. How spooky is that? And a cross between I Capture the Castle and The Addams Family. Oh my goodness, that is really spooky. I can't wait. I can't wait to read these. That's our book harvest from Abbey's bookshop in Sydney. I've purchased from there before, and I really do like their customer service. They do get in some great books, as does another favourite of mine, Cracked and Spineless in Hobart, Tasmania. They all send out Sherlock and Pages. They all send out all over the world. It is that type of world now. And even though I've bought them online, I do advocate buying them from independent bookshops. They are all independent bookshops, and I'll take these off now. I do advocate that. We must keep these wonderful independent bookshops alive. The people are passionate about what they do. They're passionate about the books and the authors. We can't let them down. We really must patronise them a little bit more, I think, than what we do. And I do my best. As you can see, I do my best. So let's go over those again. Oh, just knocked the table in my excitement. Let's go over them. Taken the spectacles off and I need them. The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie, Alan Bradley, that's a Flavia De Lucci mystery. Raynor Wynne, it is a memoir. The Salt Path. Raynor has written a few sequels to this. This was her first. So I'll read that, and if I enjoy it, I will buy her others. An oldie, but one I haven't read, Longbourn by Joe Baker. That is the reimagining of Pride and Prejudice. And I didn't tell you, actually, that they are by Penguin. They're published by Penguin. This one is published by Orion Books in London. And The Last Quarter of the Moon by Zhijan. Oh, I do apologise. I know I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but you can see it there. There's the author. And this is Vintage Earth publication. Dodie Smith, I Capture the Castle. It is also a vintage classic. Can't wait to read it. Very excited. And S.J. Paris, Prophecy. It is a series. It began with Heresy. I really enjoyed it, along the lines of C.J. Sansom. I do love my Matthew Shardlake series, but I'm hoping that this will be just as good. And the first book was good. I just haven't fallen in love with that protagonist yet. I'm sure I will in the future books. And one that I have purchased to replace one that I have lost, and that is Pomegranate Soup by Marsha Mayran. I do recommend this, and I recommend Soda Bread and Rose Water. They're both beautiful stories, and you won't be disappointed. And we have lost a very good author with Marsha's passing. So that's those today. And also, we'll just go here. I'll get rid of that receipt. Jane Webster's French Ties and At My French Table. This was the first of the books to be written, and French Ties was next. And there's a third one that I don't have, and I can't remember the name of. I'll get that for you. The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart by Holly Ringland. I recommended that last year. I have recently finished reading The Seven Skins of Esther Wilding. I absolutely loved it. I loved the themes. I loved the writing. I just didn't like all the swearing. There was just a bit too much of it for me, and just a little section of it that I thought perhaps, I don't know, maybe you'll think that it added to the story, but I'm not sure that it did. I still recommend it. I love Holly Ringland. I love her writing, and I think you should read it. And give me your opinion. If you have read any of these, let me know what you think. Don't tell me, the ones that I've bought, don't tell me the storylines, but do tell me if you've read them and if you've enjoyed them. Okay, that is it for this week. I hope you're all well and looking after yourselves in the heat in the north and the cold here in the southern hemisphere. It's terrible. Although we do need it. It gives the trees chance to rest and all of that, I know. And also us, we can rest too in a nice warm room with a lovely book by the fire. It's lovely. And a hot chocolate or something. Scrummy. Oh, and a scone with jam and cream. I might make some this afternoon, actually. Anyway, let's not go there. So happy reading, good eating. You know I always advocate good eating, and safe travels wherever you are. I will see you hope to see you in the next book recommendation or book harvest, and hopefully also in the next travel video. And don't forget, we will have the book competition. As mentioned in last week's book recommendation video, we will have a book competition, and I'll give you more details in the weeks to come. Okay, all look after yourself, please. And until next time, take care. Bye for now.